Welcome back to the West London Witch. This episode contains a reference to suicide. Listener discretion is advised. As Betty looked out the kitchen window of her suburban home, she couldn't help but smile. Fresh laundry fluttered on the line, whitewashed in the hot summer sun. The soapy scent of detergent mixed with jasmine, grass, and chlorine wafted into her pristine kitchen. The bright white of the linens contrasted against the verdant lawn. Perfectly manicured flower beds trimmed the yard in fluffy blooms of pink, purple, and yellow. Sunflowers craned their necks to bask in the afternoon heat as hummingbirds buzzed around the cherry-red feeder, coming to land on scarlet metal flowers like planes at an airport. In the middle of the yard was a deep pebble rock pool, glittering and bright turquoise, dug deep into the earth like a middle-class oasis. Betty gazed upon the cerulean water with joy as she watched her children splash, jump, and cry out with glee from the watery playground. "You should be out there, Betty," came the curt voice of her husband. "I can see from here. Everything's fine." "I don't want Tommy in that pool all day. He's got baseball this evening. That pool tires him out." "John, it's summer break. Let the kid relax. Besides, it's T-ball, not the World Series." "Betty, I don't want him in that pool at all." "John, it's the reason we bought this house. And I want him to be comfortable in the water. You don't want him to be afraid of swimming, do you?" "I want him to be cautious. I want you to be cautious." The latter half of that remark was pointed, sharp, and cruel. John stormed out of the kitchen as Betty took a plate of sandwiches to the children. Thanks, Mom. I was getting so hungry," Tommy exclaimed as he swam over to the steps of the shallow end. "You're playing hard out here. What's today's adventure?" "Well, I'm a shark and Cindy is a mermaid." "Naturally," Betty giggled as Tommy sat on the steps chomping away, peanut butter smeared over his left cheek. "She's so quick, Mom. I think it's because mermaids are magical and sharks are just mammals." Cindy gazed at her mother as teal water surrounded her, her eyes watery and her skin pale in the bright light. "That is a great observation, Tommy. What do you think, Cindy?" Cindy flapped her legs in a fish-like fashion and dove deep into the shimmering water, her golden hair flowing behind her like kelp. "Tommy, please do not put peanut butter fingers in the pool." "You know what? Let's call it a day. You've got baseball later. Better get ready for practice." "Cindy doesn't have to go to baseball." "You run inside and I'll sit out here with Cindy for a little bit." Tommy gave his sister one last playful splash and then wrapped up in a towel and headed towards the house. "Wipe your feet, please," John called out as Tommy opened the back door. "Look like you're having fun out there." "Oh, it was awesome, Dad. I swam so fast." "Nice. But Tommy, I don't want you in the pool unless an adult is sitting out there with you." "She only went inside for a minute to make lunch." "I know that, but it only takes a minute for an accident to happen, buddy." "It was only an accident, Dad, and it won't happen again." "I know, son. It's better to be safe than sorry." "Besides, Daddy, Cindy isn't gone. Mommy's sitting with her right now." John's head snapped up to look out the back windows. There, next to the pool, sat Betty, feet dangling in the water. She was smiling, talking, clapping as though she was applauding an award-winning dive. "What do you mean Mommy's sitting with her right now?" "Cindy's still here, Daddy. She's just a mermaid now, who lives in the pool." ever lie awake in bed at night and wonder, what is happening in the West London Witch Patreon? Are you plagued by the feeling that you're missing out? Do you want more content and a sneaky look into the inner workings of the West London Witch? Well, I just wanted to pop in and say that joining Patreon is super easy and affordable. I am very aware that we are deep in a cost of living crisis. So for as little as $1, €1, £1 a month, you can unlock the entire West London Witch Patreon and gain access to loads of additional content that you will never experience here on the main show. Patreon is a place where I share extra special interviews, behind-the-scenes stories and gossip, and answer your questions. And in return, you're also helping support the show as we work to share with you the best storytelling at the highest studio quality. So come join us at patreon.com/The West London Witch. Hello and welcome to episode 86 of The West London Witch, a podcast where we share stories about those moments where we find ourselves very much not alone. What is your favorite thing to do with your friends? Are you a camping group? A wine and cheese night kind of crowd? Golfers? Board game players? Wild swimmers? What do you do to connect, recharge, and spend quality time with your besties? Well, for Liz, Emily, and Julie, it's ghost hunting. These Midwestern moms from Kansas City are moms by day and paranormal investigators by night. They have 8 children between the 3 of them, and although their days are spent carpooling, parent-teacher conferencing, and meal prepping, their nights are spent in dusty old sanitariums, chugging energy drinks, and reaching out to the spirit world. The ghost moms, as they are affectionately known, juggle all the responsibilities of work, marriage, and motherhood, and still find the time to prioritize their investigating. And most importantly, their friendship. I'm Rebecca Strazina, and this is The West London Witch. Episode 86, The Ghost Moms.
Our origin story is we all met because we had kids in the same kindergarten class, but those kids are now juniors in high school, so this is not recent.
Meet Liz. Liz, her sister Emily, and friend Julie make up the trio that is the Ghost Moms.
Oh, goodness. It was like 7 years maybe back. We went on a 40th birthday party trip to New Orleans, and Julie works for People magazine, and she was getting ready to go to Utah and interview the Ghost Adventures. And she was actually on an episode with them. It was very cool. And we were talking about it, and actually we were going on a haunted cocktail tour, which is what spiked the conversation. And I was telling her how I work in a haunted building. We all have stories. She was getting ready to go do this trip, and we just started talking about it. And she's like, well, hey, I would love to see if we could investigate your building. And I was like, oh, let me see. So that was like a super weird conversation to have with my boss, like, hey, do you care if I bring some friends in after hours? But we did it, and we had the craziest night, the best time investigating, and then from that point on, we were just hooked.
Once the ladies got the bug for investigating, they continued to travel from one haunted location to the next. And now, 7 years later, they have conducted coast-to-coast investigations, hitting some of the most famous haunted spaces in the U.S. The Queen Mary, the Villisca Axe Murder House, the Conjuring House, Waverly Hills Sanitarium, Mission State Penitentiary. You name it, they've been there. But it all started with Liz's place of work and a very awkward conversation with her boss. Liz works in a church in Kansas City. The entire staff and congregation had heard tales of the building being spirited. Haunted churches are a very common trope. They're spiritual locations. They see beautiful moments like weddings and baptisms, but they also hold a lot of pain and sadness. People who need spiritual guidance, help, and of course, a lot of funerals. Liz's church isn't scary and doesn't have frightening energy, but it definitely has a vibe.
It's over 75 years old, and it's built before it was a church. It was farmland because we're in the Midwest, and everything was once farmland. But first it was an army chapel, and then it became a church. And we do have in the basement where most of like the weird experiences happen, and a lot of this is by like the janitorial people that work at night, or there's a school downstairs, so it's the teachers who work there have their own set of experiences. But there is a columbarium, which is kind of best described as like a safety deposit box where you keep ashes, so people are actually interred there. And then we do have a memorial garden as well, so some people's ashes are actually out in the garden. But so one, it's a church and just kind of, I don't know, church spiritual. It's spiritual. We have funerals here. We have weddings here. I mean, I think people come to churches when they're dealing with things. I do think we kind of have that element of energy that I was touching on earlier. And then two, we also just, it is a place where a lot of people have been laid to rest.
Activity has been experienced by everyone at the church. But of course, the nighttime janitorial staff get a first-row seat to the haunted happenings.
There have been times where they've been vacuuming downstairs. It's late, they're alone in the building, and it's like the cord gets stuck on something, and then you turn around and there's plenty of slack and it's not stuck. So then you vacuum again and it keeps happening. So it's like something's kind of like stepping on it, but as soon as you turn around, nothing's happening. There's been stories where they'll go like lock all the doors at night, and then when they come back, everything's been unlocked. Footsteps is very common. So if you're downstairs, it often sounds like there's someone walking upstairs with high heels. There's a men's bathroom where a toilet flushes spontaneously. It's like an actual handle. It's not a motion detector. That happens like late in the building.
The cabinet doors.
Oh,
They put little locks on them because they'd always be wide open.
yeah, there's some cabinet doors that they've put these little like wood things to hold them in place because at night they would, and there's no weight to it, but they would sometimes come in a room and every cabinet door is then opened. Years of stories like that.
The ladies were fascinated by the activity. So one afternoon, Liz decided to ask her boss if she could bring Emily and Julie into the building one evening and investigate the property.
So when I say I had to ask my boss, it's a priest. And so I did say, like, we're just going to stay downstairs where, like, the classrooms are, where the choir room is. We're not going to actually go up into the sanctuary or any of, like, the religious spaces. So,
And again, we're very respectful. I mean, we're three moms. We're not doing anything untoward.
The priest was very open-minded and very obliging. He gave Liz his blessing, pardon the pun, and the newly minted ghost moms began to plan their first investigation. They had no idea what to expect or what they would find, but they were interested in one ghost who had seemed to garner quite a reputation. A little girl who had been seen in the school portion of the church.
during 2020, during COVID, the school was downstairs and then the church office is upstairs where I work. And I'm on the business side of the church. We just had to the school stayed in one area because it was children, and then the office staff stayed in another, and we weren't really like crossing. And we had like a nursery and a bathroom that some people were still using, and there had been a camera set up outside our boiler room. And it was just like almost like a little trail cam, and it was up above the door, and it's motion activated. So if it's a mercury camera. So if you motion activated, then it sends a photo to and an alert to an app on the phone. And so what happened was at like 3 a.m., there was motion. So next day when it was noticed, it was actually like where this camera was up by the ceiling, it's actually like a little face like looking at it. At that same time, my youngest daughter, because they weren't in school, they were doing virtual school, and she was only in, I think it was third or fourth. It was actually fourth grade because it was the fall. I would have to bring her to work with me and set her up in my office because she was not like doing it by herself at home like my teenagers were. So there's like a soda machine there that like she would sometimes go, and then she one day came back. She told me she saw someone looking at her through the window of a glass window to one of the classrooms. And when I showed her their picture, she's like, "Mom, that's who was looking at me."
This photo of the little girl in the security camera is really eerie. She's right up close to the lens, which is odd as the camera was positioned above the door, and she appears to be moving quickly across the frame. Her facial features are totally clear, and there's no mistaking that this is the image of a little girl. Make sure you head on over to the West London Witch Instagram and Facebook page to check out this terrifying image. However, in addition to the photo, the team have also caught EVPs of footsteps, unexplained noises, and even have a sample of the little girl's voice.
We caught her voice the last time we were here. We were by the columbarium, and this is a stop at night. And we hadn't really gotten anything from her, or like, because sometimes we'll put we bring some dolls, Raggedy Ann dolls, and if we put them by the motion detectors, she'll go after the dolls, we think, because those motion detectors will go off. And I just had night vision camera on, so I just had the illuminated screen. That's it. The rest of the hallway was pitch black. I couldn't really see each other. And we are on camera, so you can see us talking. And then it was quiet, and I said something, just like 2 words, and you can see me talking, and you can hear me, but you also hear a little girl's voice very clearly into the camera say, "Light." So we think she saw the light on the screen that I was looking in, because she's right there, and it's into the camera, and it's very clearly a little girl's voice, and it's right above where my voice is recorded. But that's the first time we've heard her. So I was kind of excited because it's very, like I said, it's very clearly a little girl. Very clearly she's responding to what was likely the light of the camera.
The tape. What was that? I don't know. Next stairwell. Mine. She hears something in the next stairwell. The tape. What was that? I don't know. Next stairwell. Mine. She hears something in the next stairwell.
The team are lucky that they have had constant access to the church and have been able to investigate it over and over and over again. Because a lot of the time, not a lot happens on investigations. If you've ever been ghost hunting, you will know that it's more of a practice of patience than high paranormal drama. Julie had the best metaphor for what a night of ghost hunting really is like.
Most of it's downtime. Like, it's very rare that you have so much activity back to back. Like, I think we always said it's like fishing. Sometimes you get a nibble. Occasionally you get a big one. You still want to go fishing because it's fun if you're with your friends, even if you don't get a nibble. But obviously you have more fun if you can at least catch a few, or, watch the cork go up and down. I don't know. But some nights you just have absolutely nothing happen. And so that's why you have to make sure you're doing it with people that you love being around, like we do.
But what about those moments when you do get a nibble or even a catch? Our next story takes us to the Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City, Missouri.
It's an abandoned prison, very notorious for being haunted. All of the buildings are available to be investigated overnight. There's death row, there's the gas chamber. Like, it's as spooky as you can get with abandoned prisons. And we were investigating the criminally insane portion where they kept those particular prisoners. Actually, and we were just walking along the cells. Emily was in front of me. I had the video camera going. And we were just talking. It had actually been a very quiet night. And I had said something. We were trying to just talk to any ghost spirits. And we laughed before we started the investigation because we realized we probably didn't look like most typical paranormal investigators that come to the prison. But then we thought we might be able to use that to our advantage because they don't normally see 3 women, all-female teams, let alone 3 women who were in, leggings and Ugg boots and not in all black and, hardcore gear. But we were talking to the prisoners, and I said something like, it's time to get out of your cell now. And then Emily says, is there anyone who feels like they don't belong here, or something along those lines? And only on EVP later when we were watching, we had caught what we've now deemed a Scooby-Doo villain laugh, because that's what it sounds like. It's this, you do it because you do.
That's like a maniacal laugh that's like, it's like deep and high and roller coastery, and it just sounds like a crazy person. Really, really maniacal.
Well, loud, very loud.
Interestingly enough, 3 years after the team caught this EVP, they returned to the penitentiary and once again were confronted by this ghoulish giggle. While recording audio in another part of the building, Emily froze as she once again heard the familiar phantom laugh. Check out this EVP of the ghostly villain laugh.
What was it?
It was the Scooby-Doo laugh.
No, it was not
it
you.
was.
It was not
No.
you, Julie.
Did you just record?
It was the Scooby-Doo laugh. Yes.
Oh my
and
God. Can we go
all
home?
my goosebumps are out.
We'll play it.
That was really scary.
Oh, yeah. It's the Scooby-Doo laugh.
We played back the video, and you caught it. It was very faint, but it was the exact same maniacal. I can't do it right. that same sound voice, the exact same man. Only this time was audible. Like, we heard it, and it was in the same building that we were in. So clearly, it either recognized us. We found us humorous again. I don't know what the appeal was, but he was definitely letting us know that he knew we had returned.
In addition to capturing the laugh EVP, the team were also on the lookout for a shadow figure near a long row of cells. Although they didn't see the shadow man, they did capture evidence of him.
In another area, there was a big, along one hall or row of cells, there was a tall shadow person that was frequently seen. And when the woman there's a docent, and they'd show you around, and then they kind of let you loose for the night. And she had said it was by a certain cell. And on video, we were trying to figure out if this was that cell. And I said, is this it? And then I think you hear a growl, first and foremost. And again, these are all EVPs. We thought very quiet night, but we caught an EVP after I said, is this where she was talking about? And then you hear a distinct growl. And then Emily says, ooh. And I said, what was that? And she said, I don't know. And then you hear a man's voice clearly say, that's mine. And we were like hoping he was saying that's his cell and not like claiming one of us. But again, we only heard it on EVP after the fact. So we really weren't that scared at the prison. I mean, it was spooky and it was, creepy for sure, but we weren't realizing that these male prisoner spirits were trying to talk to us as much as they were. Yeah, until we were leaving, and then we screamed all the way home.
The next bite on the line came to the ladies within the walls of the iconic Waverly Hills. Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, is a former tuberculosis hospital. From 1910 to 1960, countless patients came to Waverly Hills in hopes of treatment. Many people did recover from the illness, yet many more died within the walls of Waverly. Come the advent of antibiotics such as streptomycin, the need for large TB hospitals dissipated as we entered the 1960s. By 1962, the hospital had transitioned from a tuberculosis sanatorium into a geriatrics facility. Woodhaven Medical Services, as Waverly was renamed, was a disaster of a nursing home. Its aim was to help aging patients suffering with dementia, severe mental health conditions, and limited mobility. But the center was later closed in the 1980s by the state of Kentucky due to reports of severe overcrowding and dangerous understaffing, resulting in tragic patient neglect and mismanagement. Developers later tried to turn Waverly into a prison and a religious memorial, but by 2001, the sanatorium had been sold as a historical and haunted location. It is a fascinating building, full of heartbreaking history.
It's an amazing facility, even though obviously it's abandoned and they don't use it for tuberculosis hospital anymore. But on the 5th floor, a nurse had hung herself, and they had never realized, and that was fact. They had, actual historical data backing that up. They didn't know she did it, if it was a suicide or if somebody had hung her. The story went that she was actually pregnant with a doctor's baby, and I don't know if the doctor was married, but anyway, it was very controversial that she was pregnant. And then she had been found hung on the 5th floor, right when you came out of the elevator. So we were on the 5th floor. We had a motion detector in front of the elevator, and we were using the SLS camera.
I just want to pop in briefly to discuss the SLS camera. It has been mentioned on the show before, but just as a refresher, an SLS camera is a structured light sensor camera that uses infrared light to display and record paranormal activity. It uses lasers to plot out a grid and connect the distance between the infrared dots to create a 3D image. The technology was originally developed by Xbox to track body movements as a motion controller. This technology is now also used to detect ghosts unseen by the human eye. The ghosts show up as green stick figures. They are compelling and controversial devices, but the evidence they collect can be very interesting and convincing.
So we were on the 5th floor. We had a motion detector in front of the elevator, and we were using the SLS camera. And I started getting really nauseous. And that's only happened a couple of times. And, your first instinct is, I ate something weird. Because we always do like 5-hour energy shots before, because, we're moms and we're exhausted and we need caffeine and to keep us up. So I always think like, oh, it's just not, it's not feeling good. So I never wanted to be like, oh, I'm being affected physically. But I did start getting really nauseous. And I had to kind of sit down, and I was trying to talk to the nurse, and I was saying like, if you're here, I'm so sorry if something hurt you. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. I can only imagine. And we were kind of trying to relate to her as moms and as, how she may have been feeling. Well, the motion detector by the elevator gets triggered. We turn on the flashlight. We can't see what's setting it off, but something is clearly setting it off. And then we had the SLS, and we were kind of just like panning, trying to find, anything. And in the briefest of seconds, I think it only lasted maybe like 3 to 5 seconds, there was a clear stick figure from the roof down, like hanging. And it disappeared just as quickly. It was literally like, oh my God. We all saw it, and then it just disappeared. And then we tried our best, any way we could, to replicate it. We walked around the room. We did every possible scenario, trying to get anything that could have mapped, but we could never get it to replicate and to come back. So just the thoughts that nurse, because we had just said, can you please show yourself to us? And that's when we got the stick figure for a briefest of flashes. I hope that, she's at peace, and I hope that's not, I would like to think that's residual energy, if that's really what we picked up on, because, you don't want to think someone's having to relive that kind of scenario. But it was, and the wild part is the second we left the room, the nausea went away, like gone. So I don't know, but that one has always stayed with me because I see the stick figure and I know it was hanging. And it was such a sad story that it was her, of why she had come to be in that position. So I don't know. That one always stays with me and always will, I think.
I want to leave you with the most beautiful and quintessential mom story of all time. One of Julie's friends is a real estate agent and had sold a home to a woman who was experiencing some distressing activity in her new abode.
She was having issues with her grandson, who was seeing a little girl in his room that she couldn't see. And he was telling her about this little girl, and the little girl had been playing with him. And then she started to scare him because he didn't want to play with her anymore. And he told his grandma that the little girl was getting angry with him. So she reached out, hoping we could help. The owner had actually, I think she had a friend who was a medium in Los Angeles, and she had reached out to her. And the medium had said that there was a little girl in the house a spirit of a little girl who had died in the house, that the little girl's mother had been trying to get her to come into the light for years and years and years and has not been able to. And the little girl doesn't understand that she's died and she's in this house, and her loved ones and the mom have been trying to get her into the light. This is what the medium is telling the owner.
The homeowner wanted to see if she could substantiate the medium's claims. So she headed to the library and sifted through reels and reels of microfiche until she came upon an announcement of the passing of a little girl. A little girl named Lillian, who had passed away in her home. According to the paper, Lillian had fallen down the stairs in the house and had died from her injuries. However, there was suspicion or questions surrounding the death. Did she fall down the stairs, or was she pushed by her stepfather? Regardless, Lillian had died tragically in the home.
So we were there, and I turned on the digital recorder, and I just started kind of talking just to see if I could get her to communicate. And I said, "We've been told your name is Lily, or your name is Lillian. Do you go by Lily or Lillian?" And then when we played back the recorder, it was a little girl's voice that said Lillian. So started saying Lillian, talking to her, and I, without knowing really what to do, I just kind of started saying, "Do you see a light? Your mom is in the light. There's nothing to be scared of." Like, just talking how I would talk to my 9-year-old daughter, to try to get her to understand what was happening, not to be scared, to be with her mom, etc. I probably spent 20 minutes, and then I left, and I was like, they wanted to sage, so I saged, which we'll do if anyone wants, that kind of cleansing. And then I left, and then I went out of town the next day, and I remember getting to my hotel, and the owner called me, and I answered, and she said that she had just gotten a call from her medium friend, that she had not told the medium that I had come over, and the medium wanted her to know that she had just gotten a message from Lillian's mom, and her mom wanted to say thank you because Lillian was with her now. And I just thought, I don't care if this is true or not. That is the most amazing idea, that we could have reunited this little girl with her mother in the afterlife. And I'm hooked anyway, just to hang out with these girls and the experience of, what we can or can't get, in any given night. But the idea of life after death, and maybe being able to make one small ripple effect or any sort of positive, situation as a result of what we're doing, that's just gravy. That was amazing.
Liz, Emily, and Julie's approach to ghost hunting is delightfully refreshing. They are serious about their work. They have great integrity and reverence for the act of ghost hunting. But they also bring levity, joy, and compassion to their investigations. Ghost hunting for them is about fellowship. It's a time to unwind, have fun, expand their worldviews, and, ironically, enjoy what it means to be alive. The Ghost Moms are a beautiful example of 3 women living their very best lives among the dead.
And this is our version of a book club. This is what we do as our girls' night out.
Yeah, we always go out to dinner first.
It's way more fun than a book club. I was just saying. True.
Make sure you look up the Ghost Moms on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you'd like to hear about Emily's experience in the Conjuring House, Liz's slumber party with a feral cat at Velisca, or listen to an EVP from a school fundraiser ran by the moms, head on over to the West London Witch Patreon to check out more from my chat with the team. Do you have a spooky story you'd like to share? I'd love to hear it. Drop me an email at thewestlondonwitch@gmail.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at The West London Witch. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And come and follow us for additional content on Instagram and Facebook. Until next time, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. The West London Witch is created by me, Rebecca Strazina. Our sound designer and production magician is the incredible Danny Cross. Our theme music was bespokely written and performed by the wickedly talented Kyle Hall. Our cover art is the beautiful collaboration between Lizzie Wilson and Jake Bowser. Special thanks to Miss Sinead Bowers, our quality control and biggest cheerleader. And thank you to you, all of our listeners all over the world. These are your stories. Thank you for sharing them with us.